In the summer of 1945, silence fell over Germany like a funeral shroud. Cities that had once pulsed with industry and culture were now vast fields of rubble, their cathedrals shattered, their factories gutted, their rail lines twisted like broken bones. The war was over, but what remained was a country on its knees, its economy in ruins, its people hungry, its reputation poisoned. The victors, demanding justice for the devastation unleashed across Europe, presented Germany with a bill that seemed impossible to pay. Billions in reparations loomed over a nation that could barely keep its citizens alive. To many, it looked less like debt and more like a death sentence. The sheer weight of those reparations dragged the country deeper into despair. At night, Berlin's blacked-out streets whispered with the sound of hollow footsteps. Families burned broken furniture for heat, and currency crumbled into meaninglessness. In the ruins, people bartered cigarettes and coffee for survival. A bottle of cognac might be traded for a winter coat, a pound of butter worth more than an entire day's wages. To the outside world, Germany was broken, financially, morally, spiritually. The question wasn't if it would collapse completely, but when. Yet out of this abyss came a twist no one expected. In Washington, policymakers argued over Germany's fate. Should the nation be punished until it withered into irrelevance, or rebuilt into a bulwark against the growing shadow of Soviet power? By 1947, with Europe on the brink of famine and communism creeping westward, the United States made a decision that would change history: the Marshall Plan. $13 billion, an astronomical sum at the time, was pledged to rebuild not only Germany, but an entire continent scarred by war. For Germany, it was both lifeline and gamble. Money poured in, but it wasn't simply given. It demanded reforms, discipline, and vision. Factories that had been silent for years suddenly roared to life. By dawn, smokestacks, once symbols of destruction, rose again as monuments to rebirth. The Ruhr Valley, gutted by bombing raids, became the heartbeat of an economic miracle. Coal was mined, steel forged, and locomotives thundered down repaired tracks. For the first time in years, German workers saw wages that meant something, currency that held value, shelves slowly filling with goods. Hunger gave way to cautious optimism, but debt still hung in the air, a reminder of chains not easily broken. The London Debt Agreement of 1953 was the next turning point. In a tense room thick with cigarette smoke, negotiators struck a deal that stunned the world. Half of Germany's debt, tens of billions, was simply written off. The rest would be repaid, but only if Germany earned trade surpluses, ensuring repayment wouldn't choke growth. It was a compromise, but also a test. Could this battered nation truly rebuild itself while paying back what it owed? The stakes were immense. At 6 a.m., trains carried workers to humming factories, their eyes heavy with exhaustion, but lit with something stronger: determination. Women who had once sifted through ruins now stitched clothes in textile mills. Men who had carried rifles now carried tools. By night, the lights of Frankfurt, Hamburg, and Munich glowed once more, signaling to the world that Germany was not just surviving, but rising. The Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle, had begun. Still, repayment was no easy path. Each installment was a reminder of past destruction. Each mark, sent abroad, carried the weight of history. But paradoxically, that burden fueled ambition. Germany exported more, innovated faster, and modernized its industries with ruthless efficiency. Automobiles bearing the names Volkswagen, Mercedes, and BMW rolled off assembly lines, not as luxuries, but as symbols of resilience. The country that had once been synonymous with ruin became a powerhouse of trade, its products craved worldwide. And as the years ticked by, the impossible became inevitable. By the 1970s, the vast majority of the debt had been paid. And then came the final chapter of this long repayment saga. In 2010, more than 6 decades after the war's end, Germany quietly transferred its last payment, closing the books on obligations that had once seemed unending. It was not marked with parades or speeches, only a wire transfer across continents. But behind the silence lay a triumph few nations could claim. A country not only rebuilt from ashes, but one that had honored its debts to the very last mark. The story of Germany's post-war debt is more than numbers, more than economics. It is a story of resilience born in the rubble, of a gamble that became a miracle, of a nation that turned its chains into engines of growth. What began as a sentence of despair ended as one of history's most remarkable transformations. And even now, as the world faces its own crises, the echoes of that recovery remind us that even the deepest scars can give way to unexpected rebirth.